It's great to be back again. And yesterday was actually my 24th birthday, which means that today I'm going to be going through what happened last year. So I'll have 23 things that went really well that year, and then one thing that I'm really looking forward to this year. All right, so at the beginning of last year, I was sort of in a contentious position because I didn't have a full-time job and I didn't have any immediate plans to go to study. Now, this wasn't a super big deal for me financially or otherwise because I had a couple part-time jobs and I really love to travel. The only thing is that I had a pretty big knee problem. 2 years ago, when I was in Japan, I was climbing up this mountain, and then when I was coming down, I was on a bike. And of course, lo and behold, what happened is that I sort of fell off the bike. The bottom part of my leg was sort of forced outward, and it created a lot of pain in my knee. I didn't know what to do at the time, so that problem kind of festered for a really long time, and it sort of became worse over the course of the last year. Actually, thankfully, I didn't have to study or work, and so I moved to Taiwan for a couple months, and there I was trying out different kinds of treatments. So I went and got an x-ray, an MRI, blah, blah, blah. The great thing is that it turned out really well, so I got that problem solved. And the other thing is that I got to spend a lot of time with my family, and I haven't been able to do that in a really long time. So that was really great. Saw my grandparents, saw my extended family, saw my cousins. A lot of them live over there in Taipei. So overall, that was kind of a really good silver lining to the cloud there. And after that, it kind of evolved into a summer road trip. So my grand aunt was going to visit both of her kids, and they lived in LA and Portland, Oregon. And she asked me if I wanted to come along. I said, heck yes, that would be awesome. And so actually I ended up going to 5 different cities over the summer, LA, and then we road tripped up to San Francisco where my aunt lives, and then I went to Portland to see my grand aunt's daughter, and then from there we actually met up with my parents and my brothers where we went to Seattle and Vancouver. So I ended up having a really, really good time over the summer, and it was just awesome to be able to see my family again and then spend some time with them just going around a place that was definitely not as hot as where I'm from, Texas, or where I was in Taipei, Taiwan, and where I am right now, which is Beijing, China. And so after that, I kind of came back to Beijing because I knew I'd be able to find a job here. I already had a part-time offer that paid pretty well. And so I decided to come back. And I actually found a full-time job. I wasn't planning on it, but I'm the kind of person who takes opportunities as they roll. So it ended up working out pretty well. And over the so-called Golden Week in China, which is their national day in October 1st, we had a couple of extra days off. And so I went to Hanoi. And then because of the way that my plane tickets worked out, I actually ended up going to Changsha and Shenzhen, both other cities in China. And so I got some traveling done then. And then I also spent some time in Tianjin, which is a really, really awesome city, just 30 minutes train ride from Beijing. And so that was really cool. And I was finally able to spend some time actually going to all these different places in China because I had thought about it earlier, thought about it when I came to China last year. But of course, with my knee situation, it didn't really work out for me. But luckily, that worked out. And so at my job, I started kind of really figuring out how important connections are. I mean, I knew this kind of on a surface level before, but I've always been really independent. I've always really loved to do things on my own. But I really recognized that it was important to make friends and to work with people who have the same goals as you. And because of that, I got a lot more integrated into Beijing, which was a huge contrast to my experience in Beijing before. Before then, I really didn't have connections with other expats. I was hanging out mostly with other Chinese people, which is great, but there's also a kind of cultural disconnect there where there's always a little bit of a barrier, and I think not having other expats that I could lean on really accentuated that barrier. So now that I actually know people who are other expats, it's really no longer a problem. So that was also another hit. And then on sort of the professional side, I hit a lot of my savings and income goals this year, which was really good. Definitely the full-time job helps. And along the way, I gained a lot of teaching experience, both online and in the classroom. So I think going forward, that would be really, really good for me. It also taught me a lot about figuring out how to play politics. I am not an expert by any means, but as the months go on, I'm sort of settling in even more, figuring out that side of things, which is one of the most difficult challenges to navigate as an expat, in my opinion. Going along with all of that, I've met some amazing coworkers. They have been really, really cool people, and I think people who move to China as expats just have a sort of different vibe than other types of expats or just other Americans or English speakers in general. I think there is something really specific to be said about them because China is such a different world and it's kind of difficult to really settle in here. So people who do settle in here and make that choice kind of have a really special set of characteristics, I think. That's not to toot my own horn, it's just to really admire the other people that I've met that are here. And one of the greatest things that I've had is being able to impact other people through the work that I've done. So I used to only do work that I couldn't really see the results of. Like I was just doing them and doing them and doing them, and then I hadn't built up strong relationships with my students. I hadn't done enough writing to see how my writing was impacting other people, things like that. And over the course of this year, I actually have been able to see that a little bit more, and seeing the results and the impacts that I'm having on other people is really, really cool. On a more personal note, I have actually spent a scary amount of time watching television and watching movies. This is good because I sort of treat that as a to-do list almost. So with TV, I finished Friends, I started on Mr. Robot, I'm going through Prison Break, and I know those are really old shows, but they are things that I have not read before, so it's really good that I'm having some time to go through all of those this year. In terms of movies, I've seen a lot of them, I've read a lot of books, and one of the most important things about that is that I got into Harry Potter. Finally, I know it's been basically 20 years, but I'm sort of the kind of person who's been resisting the mainstream stuff, but I finally decided that it'd be worth it to just give in and try it. So I tried it, and oh my God, Harry Potter is amazing. Highly, highly recommend it if you're like me. On another note, I have written a lot more in my blog. So from 2017, I have written 57 posts this year, which is awesome. And I'm getting about 13,000 views a year, which translates to just above 1,000 views a month. And I've made 8 videos so far, not including this one. So those are not great numbers, but definitely an improvement from where I was last year at this time. So I really hope I can take this further, dedicate more time to it, and really look forward to growing this blog even more. Hit number 23 is that I did not accumulate a ton of stuff. So this was a huge concern for me because as a backpacker traveler slash expat, I definitely don't want to have a ton of stuff that I need to be bringing around all the time. And this year I did buy some stuff because I've been making a lot more money than a poor college student, but I have not spent a lot of that on things that I don't actually need. So that has been a really, really good blessing, and I'm hoping to keep that up. Now, looking on to next year, I actually have a lot of travel plans in the process, so I'm super excited about that. On January 1st, I'm going to be in Harbin, China, which is famous for its ice sculptures and its ice and snow festival, and from the pictures, it looks absolutely amazing, and I know it's going to be freezing, super, super cold, but I'm really looking forward to it. It's one of the characteristics of like winter in China, so I'm super excited, and I'll definitely have some footage to share, hopefully if my phone / camera cooperates, but I am really, really looking forward to that and traveling even more this year and working harder and making more videos for all of you. So thank you so much for this year, and I will see you next year.